Today, you are going to learn how to jump start your car. You never know when you'll be in the situation where your battery dies and you are unable to start your car. As you can see, my car cannot start because the battery has died. Whether you have an old car or a newer car like mine, it is always a good idea to make sure you have jumper cables on you at all times. You never know when you or somebody else will have a dead battery, and it is always better to be prepared. Make sure you also have gloves if the weather is cold, because it is never fun to work in the freezing weather with your bare hands. It is important to make sure that the vehicles are close enough together so that the cables can reach between each battery. If you are by yourself and you're unsure of whether or not the cables are long enough, you can stretch them out across the ground to make sure they are long enough. As you can see here, I have popped the hood, and make sure you know where your battery is. If you don't, you can always check the owner's manual. I've jumped my car before, so I know the battery's right here. I will remove the battery cover, and that is my battery. On my battery here, as you can make sure, it's important that you figure out which one's the positive, which one's negative. As you can see on my battery, the plus sign right there says that it's positive, and the plus sign right here on the terminal says that it's positive, so we know that this is positive. Red usually means positive, but it's always important to make sure. And back here, the negative terminal of my battery is way far back there. So Ford, the maker of my car, has provided an auxiliary negative terminal. It is important to make sure you know where the leads are on both vehicles. This vehicle, the truck, the one with the working battery, I will show you. As you can see, there's a plus sign, which usually means positive, but we'll look. There's another plus sign, so this is the positive lead. As you can see right here, Dodge, they provide a metal piece so that the clamp of the jumper cables can hook on. And back here, the negative terminal. Since I'm by myself, I'm going to make sure that the cables are long enough. It's important not to touch the clamps on the end of the cables, and I will tell you why here in the next step. The next step is to grab one end of the jumper cables and to attach the red clamp to the positive terminal of the dead battery, and not to attach the black clamp to anything yet. Make sure it's not touching any metal. I'm going to set it over here on plastic so that it's not touching any metal. And again, it is important that you start out with the dead battery and make sure that neither of the clamps have any contact. Next, we come over to the good battery, and you'll take the positive clamp on the jumper cables and attach it to the positive lead, positive terminal of the battery, and take the negative clamp and attach it to a negative lead of the good battery. You can wiggle it around, make sure you got a good grip on either one. Back at the dead battery, we have one more clamp that needs to be attached. Though you may think that it should be attached to the negative terminal of the battery, it is important that you don't do that, because that could create a spark which could potentially ignite some fumes around the engine or the battery, which could cause big problems. In my car, I have the auxiliary ground terminal, which I will attach the negative clamp to. Make sure it's tight on there. If you do not have a component such as this, you can look around your car to see if there's any metal, solid metal, that can act as a ground when you're connecting the clamps. Now that everything's attached, we're going to make sure that everything's tight and fitted on correctly. Yep. It's also important to make sure that your cable is not anywhere near any moving components such as the serpentine belt or the fan. Once you're sure everything's connected and ready to go, we are going to start the vehicle with the good battery and let it run for at least 2 minutes so that it has time to charge up the dead battery before you try to start it. After you've let the vehicle with the good battery run for about a few minutes, you can try to start the car with the dead battery. As you can see, mine has started. If yours doesn't start, you might want to check, make sure everything's connected again, make sure you've attached everything correctly. In most cases, some people mistakenly attach the wrong things, so it is important to make sure that everything's connected. Now that the car's running, we go back under the hood, make sure that you remove the negative clamp first, so since if it has a spark, it's not near the battery, so no ignition will happen. Once you remove the negative clamp, you then remove the positive clamp. Again, make sure that they do not touch, and then you can set them back down to the ground. Back over here with the good battery vehicle, we'll do the same thing. We'll remove the negative lead and then remove the positive lead in that order. And now that nothing's connected, it doesn't matter if they touch, but you can set them back down before you coil them back together. Make sure that anything you removed or took off is back to where you found it. So put the cap back here on the positive terminal, and everything is good in this vehicle. Back at the previously dead battery car, I'll put the battery cover back on top. I'll close the hood. And we are done. And that is how you successfully jump start a dead car.